What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some of the 5 best press releases wide receivers can use off the line to break a DB's ankles to create separation, and we're going to talk about the exact situation of when to use each press release. So I hope this video helps you guys out, but also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you'd like to get some work in with us this offseason, we are traveling out to 15 more states for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camp. So what we got, we're coming out to San Francisco, then Orlando, New Orleans, Charlotte, Dallas, the DMV, St. Louis, Honolulu, Boston, Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles. So, fellas, if you're local to one of those cities, would like to come get some work in with myself, my staff of coaches for 2 whole days, check out that very first link below. Let's get started with this video. So, coming in at number 5, the first release we're going to be breaking down here is I'm going to show myself doing this release and then a game example of this release. And this is called a Kickstep crossover release that I like to use anytime that we are running something outside breaking versus inside shade, like kind of 2 to 3 yards off coverage. So the way this release goes is you're going to start up. So for example, your left foot is up in this clip. You want your right foot to step behind your left foot. It's almost like a kick step. It's almost like a crossover step. Now, you would not want to do this, fellas, if you got a DB who's right up on the line of scrimmage, because when your feet land like this, you are in a position of not that much balance if he were to throw a hand on you. So you want to make sure that you use this wisely. You use this step in this situation to make sure that your feet are underneath your frame, so you're in a balanced spot to be able to throw and sell whichever move that you do. So the steps on this release, you're going to be stepping with your right foot behind, then plant with your left foot, then you're going to go right, left, and sell to the inside like you were trying to take an inside release. So we go here, you see how I step right, left, right, left. That is the steps of the release. It is a 4-step release. So the first 2 kind of bring you to balance, then the second 2 attack and throw to the inside to threaten his leverage. So you would use this release, like I said, when we have a DB who's about 2 to 3 yards off inside shade. The reason why you would do that is whenever he's inside shade, and let's say, for example, I have to run a fade right here. I want to threaten him to the inside. I want to make him think that I'm trying to square him up and run a slant or take the inside release and run a dig so he can keep his leverage and I can get a free outside release. So that's why with those first 2 steps, the right, left, you have to attack him. You have to go vertical and try to get into his cushion and close this space between the 2 of you. So now when I do this crossover, that's what sells to the inside. That's what gets him to hesitate, keeps his leverage, whatever it might be, but that sets me up for more space back to the outside. So let's play this thing again, full speed. So I come off, kick 1, right, left in this specific scenario. So now, let's look at Cooper Kupp. So this is the big catch that he made in the Super Bowl, and this is the exact same type of release. So he comes off the ball here. You see where he steps with right foot first, steps with his left, and then watch what he does after, right, left. Now, that second right, left step, the difference between this release and the one that I did is, obviously this is on the goal line too, so there's not as much room to like kind of close cushion and restack. There's just a little bit more of a gap between the 2 of us here. But the only reason Cooper Kupp went a little bit more lateral is because it's goal line fade. There's really not much of a need to, restack. The whole reason you want to close the space in like open field is so you can actually get to restack, especially if it's a vertical route. But it's a quick goal line fade. My goal is just to get this guy to hesitate inside. And this release, this like kind of footwork type release, is a great way to do that. So let's play this thing again, full speed. I'll play both clips full speed again one more time. So again, you kick behind. It's right, left, right, left. That's a 4-step release. Right, left, right, left. I call this a kick step crossover release. I'm sure there's another name for it, but that's what I like to call it. So that's the number 5 best press release to use. Coming in at number 4 now, we're going to be talking about a slide release. So what is a slide release? So I'm going to play this full speed and then we'll break it down. So I use this kick step behind, slide step to the outside, and I use this crossover. So a slide is something when you want to work it against inside shade press and you have to run a slant, but it's a longer developing slant. So that's the reason why this comes in at number 4. I love this release, but I like it at 4th best just because I feel like it's not the most common situation that you get, but you have to be prepared when you do get the situation. Because so many teams are switching over to that RPO system, air raid system, where you might not be the first read, but you're still a huge, huge part of the play if the quarterback's going RPO. So like, let's say we have to run a slant route, and let's say the QB is here and we got the running back and he's doing an RPO. He's trying to read this linebacker crashes in the box, we're hitting the slant. So I don't want to be too quick into that window, as that's just going to give the DB, the nickel, the linebacker, whoever's guarding me time to recover. I want to be patient. So that's why I decided to go with this slide. So I use this kick step behind. That's to just generate explosion, load up my hips for a second, and I slide to the outside. It's a patient slide. Because when I attack that DB's outside shoulder like this, that can get him to move off the platform. So many wide receivers, when they have to run a slant and they get this inside shade press look, they try to just jump to the inside. They try to hesitate and then just jump to the inside. His sole responsibility being inside shade is to protect the inside. Don't let a wide receiver get to the inside. Force everything to the outside, because the sideline is his help in that case. So when I do this slide to the outside, we're trying to threaten him with a vertical. That's why when you do the slide, it is very important you don't go laterally on the slide. You attack at a 45-degree angle, because that forces him to make a decision. He could either sit to the inside or he can move off that platform because he's trying to play the fade. And that's where I can get separation. Now, this is kind of the same concept as like a diamond release. What a diamond release is you would take 3 hard steps at the outside shoulder of a DB, get him to overcommit, and you slip under. So you would step with your right foot first, left, and then right. Still attacking on the 45, getting him to jump. This is just, like I said, a slower version of it. So when we slide to the outside, we slide, we are patient, we're moving him off the platform, and then it's a crossover. Then it would be a left, then a right foot move to sell the fade even more. We slide, left, right. Get him to jump, and then I could get that separation and accelerate out. But more importantly, get to the window the QB needs me to be at the timing of the play, especially if it's an RPO. So that's coming in at number 4, fellas, that slide release. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Slide, crossover, and then get that separation inside. Okay, so coming in at number 3, this is probably my third favorite release to use, simply because you could use it on any route and take any release with it, and that is something we call a split release. So, what is a split release? I'm sure some of you have heard of it. I'm sure some of you have not heard of it. So this is a clip from Antonio Brown running a go route, and he's using a split release. So a split is pretty much kind of exactly how it sounds. You're essentially splitting your feet, and you are bringing your back foot up even with your front foot. So let's talk about it. So obviously, Antonio Brown's front foot is going to be his right foot here. And he's going to take his right foot, move it out, and take his left foot and bring it up. So pretty much your feet are going to split. You're bringing your back foot up even with your front foot. So when your feet split like this puts you in a position of balance. And it's also intended to freeze the DB. I love this release. You could essentially use this, like I said, against pretty much any type of look. You could use it against inside shade, outside shade. I personally love this, though, when you get that head-up press and you can kind of react off of him. Because the split release is so great, because when you bring that front foot out and the back foot up, like I said, this is a position of balance. But it's also a position to where you can react. And we're going to talk about another reaction release here in a second. But when we split like this and we freeze the DB, if let's say the DB just jumps to the outside and gets over anxious, because I'm in a position of balance, I could push off my outside leg and take the inside release and work to restack. But because he sits, or maybe he shades to the inside, okay, fine. I can push off of my inside foot and take the outside release. It's a position of balance, but it's also a position of reaction. And that's why I love that split. But the mistake guys will make on this split is they'll split their feet, but they're not. This might be a little bit overkill in terms of how wide he is. Obviously, Antonio Brown's a freak athlete. Obviously, a lot of guys in the NFL are freak athletes and can get to that position. Some of us maybe aren't. Some high school guys, younger guys, when they split their feet, like if they're that wide, they're off balance. So you don't necessarily have to be that wide, but let's not be super narrow either where my feet are super close together. Because if your feet are super close together, your chest is going to be up, you're off balance, and all it takes is a quick jam from this DB to knock you off balance. Just make sure that my feet are slightly outside of my shoulders here, so I'm in a balanced position to push either way. And if that DB throws a hand, I'm not completely knocked off of balance. So split release, that is my third favorite release to use, fellas. Let's play this thing again one more time. He splits, gives a little hesitation, and then is able to burst upfield and win on that fade. You could go inside release or outside release when using that split. Okay, so now my next favorite release here, this coming in at number 2, I would say would be a reaction release. So this honestly could be anything. I think in terms of a reaction release, it's built off of, I think it's built off of different situations. You could build it off of other releases that maybe we've gone over, but let's use that like slide release that we used in the second example first. So Metcalf's here. We got like kind of inside shade or maybe like catch technique type press. So let's play at full speed. So he goes outside, DB jumps to the outside, and he reacts and takes the inside release. So this is very similar to what I was talking about with the split. Let's play it one more time. Slides to the outside, pushes off, or not pushes off, but swats his hand off and wins on the fade. So sometimes when we come up to the line, we talk a lot about having a plan, right? So like, let's go back to that very first release that we discussed. You know, I had that kickstep crossover release. We were using that when the DB's inside shade about 2 to 3 off, right? So that's my plan. I come up to the line, okay, that's my plan. In this example, DB's inside shade, we have to run a fade. Metcalf's plan here is probably, okay, I'm going to kind of hesitate and beat him to the outside. Try to get him to settle inside, building off of that slide release, and go run that fade. So now he comes off the ball. He does a little slide release, and now he takes off to the outside. But Okuda plays it very well. He jumps to the outside. He opens up the gate, and Metcalf knows I don't have anything to the outside. So he reacts. He sees that Okuda's taking this away. Okay, I'm going to swat and take the inside release. Take what he gives me, so I'm giving my QB enough space to throw me open. Us forcing a release because the DB took it away and just hugging the sideline does me absolutely no good because the QB has no space to fade you open. You have to take what he gives you. This DB jumps to the outside. Okay, cool. I'm going to take the inside release and work to stack because now I gave my quarterback space, especially on a fade route, even more so on any other route. So the reaction portion of this is why I love any type of reaction release because a DB can't play it. A DB cannot guard that. He does not know what he is doing in this specific situation, or he doesn't know how to, I guess, play this release in this specific situation because we know where we're going. He does not. So like, let's go back to that first release. Let's say like inside shade and we have to do that like kick step crossover release. And like, let's say for example, we wanted to do a faster tempo of that. And let's say we had like a dig, right? And so he's inside shade. So if we do that kick step crossover and I attack him, but that DB's sitting to the inside and he just starts to kind of backpedal and gives me the inside release, let's just take it. You know what I mean? We don't have to do the release we don't have to force it just because it's a predetermined plan. I have a plan, but I'm also ready to react off of the DB if he takes it away. And that's why I say reactionary release is the second best thing you can use because it can go for anything. Any release that you choose can be based on a reaction. And that's sometimes what playing the wide receiver position is about, reacting and taking what the DB gives us. Let's play this thing full speed. Great job by Metcalf seeing that Okuda was going to squeeze him all the way to the sideline and taking that inside release. Okay, so now the coming in at number one release that I love on this is going to be a hesitation hop release where he's going to be working on like changing tempo and working a crossover. So let's play this thing full speed. This is from wide receiver here for New York Jets. So he hesitates, crossover. I love this release because it's a great way to change tempo on a DB and to get him to sit to the inside. So this is very similar to that like kick step crossover release that we had, except it's just more of a hesitation element. So this type of release, I only like this personally on like a fade route or like a longer developing route where you're maybe not the first read because, you know, it takes a while off the line. You're hesitating, you're slowing things down, but usually on fade routes, we have that kind of time. I wouldn't like this on a route like, you know, a post route, a dig, a corner, just because it takes too long. What you would want to do is maybe quicken up the tempo of it and go a little faster, but I do like this on the fade route personally. So what he does here is you see how he steps. I want you to pay attention to his back foot. I know he can't see exactly where his back foot strikes, but you see how he takes a step with the back foot. He is pushing off of that step. So for this like hesitation hop crossover release, he steps with the back foot and you are pushing off the back foot. He steps and pushes because that is what allows him to gain ground and close space with this DB like we were talking about in the first example. So he goes here, steps and reaches. Now he's closing space. Now when we close the distance with the DB, he is uncomfortable. The whole reason we want to attack a DB, the whole reason we want to close the distance with the DB is to make him uncomfortable and try to get him on his heels. So now when I square him up like that and I'm attacking him, I can use that crossover. I can use that crossover to get me space. I give a jab to the inside, whatever it is, but he is forced to have to rely on his technique and watch my hips when I square him up and close space. And that is all based on that punch step with his back foot. That punch step gets you there, closes the space, and now allows you to throw a crossover move, whatever you're going to do, and gets you some separation to the outside. And you see, easy restack, easy way to get skinny because we close space, all based off of that punch step with his back foot. Let's play this thing again, full speed. So number one release that I like, fellas, best way to beat press. DBs cannot guard this, is that hesitation hop release when we have inside shade press. So he pushes off the back foot, closes space, and uses that crossover to win easy money on that fade and is an easy restack. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you'd like to come out to one of our 15 off-season camps that we were hosting this year, check out that very first link in the description below. Tour starts in San Francisco and then ends in Los Angeles, California. So we'd love to have you out for 2 days. It's 8 hours of work. We're going to have DBs out there as well, fellas. So we're going to do a lot of one-on-one stuff, a lot of live game rep technique and, a lot of coaching. Trust me, it's going to be a ton of coaching. You're going to learn a lot. So check out that very first link below. I'll see you guys next time.